Off Limits is the money podcast that blows up stereotypes, showing you that managing money doesn't have to be hard.
We want you to thrive, not only with your money, but in every part of your life.
What you will get out of this podcast is real, relatable, and relevant tips and strategies that you can apply today. Hi, I'm Donald Raymond, and this is
Christine Spiak. We are money coaches, business owners, and colleagues who are passionate about helping you become more of who you are. So if you're ready, join us. Donald, I am so excited today to talk about our episode topic, which is celebrate the win.
Yeah, celebrate the win. So we could celebrate lots of different things. On our channel, we talk about more than just finance, but we are going to focus on finances today, right? We're going to celebrate financial wins. That can mean a lot of different things. And if we're going to celebrate, we got to be careful, right? Because celebrating can cost us some money. It can take some time. It's going to eat up a lot of different resources that maybe we have. But it doesn't have to be a huge celebration, right? It could be something simple. What are some examples of celebrating the win that you've had?
Well, I'm going to go right into a big one. But before I do that, the reason why we're talking about celebrating the win, because we want you to create good habits and systems with spending your money wisely and effectively. So if you celebrate goals, milestones that are going well for you, that's going to breed more goals and milestones that you are able to achieve. So if I zoom out and look at my own life, and my husband and I in 2017 started managing our money a different way, living on a budget, goal setting, we were able to, over the course of 5 years, pay off our mortgage in its entirety.
Amazing.
So we had a 20-year, thank you. We had a 20-year mortgage that we ended up paying off in under 10 years. And it's because of all the principles and ideas that we talk about on the show and apply to our lives. So fast forward to January of this year, we had this huge milestone that we were celebrating by going on a trip. Now, that's a way of spending money, but it was a very big milestone. You can also spend less money or no money and celebrate smaller milestones or goals. But for us, hey, we worked on it for 5 years. We wanted to really knock this out of the park. And we went to Mohonk Mountain House in the Catskills in New York State, where I live. And it's this all-inclusive, beautiful resort on top of a mountain that really just speaks to us and what we enjoy doing with our free time. And we absolutely loved it. And while we were there, it was so sweet because we were there because we worked together to achieve this goal. And now we're together celebrating the goal.
Absolutely. Yeah. So having somebody to celebrate the win with, I think, goes miles. And I know we're going to talk more about that. But I got to ask you, and I see you drinking out of the mug from your celebration. So I know you're going to talk about that too. But I got to ask, because I know people are going to ask this question. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to answer it. Did you have any kind of unexpected financial gain during that time? So I'll give you an example. Did you win the lottery?
We did not.
I didn't win the lottery. Did you get some kind of large inheritance or other, payout from a life event of any kind?
We did not.
No. So did you
Nope.
just tighten up and make more intentional decisions and start living on a budget and make the mortgage, as well as any other debt that you may have had, a priority, and then start attacking it?
Absolutely. That's exactly what we did.
There you go.
We, each year we did get the kind of that cost of living raise, but it was not a huge, new job with a bonus, with a new salary. We just learned how to budget our money.
Absolutely.
It's really very simple. It may not be simple to implement if you have never done it before, if it's foreign to you, if it's out of your wheelhouse, but by living on a budget, we were able to achieve this goal.
Yep. And it really is that simple, right? When I teach budgeting, I teach but making a budget out of percentages first. And the reason that we do that is because we want to make sure that we're not just assigning the same dollar amount to a budget line that we had last month, especially if it's a discretionary budget line. So if you work on the percentage, and this is what you guys did, you applied percentages and priorities to where the money was going to make sure that your needs were met. And I say all the time, we do what we have to do so we can do what we want to do. And so for you guys, that was pay off the house. And I think, that's going to be our next step. And I think for a lot of people, it's a dream. It's a stretch goal. It's something that's out there. Everybody wants to live in a paid for house. Not many people think that it's possible. So I'm thrilled that you're able to share that story and really make it very relatable. You guys didn't come into any large sum of money that propelled you forward or allowed you to do this. You just made changes.
Right. And I think what you said is really key. If you don't know if you can, right, you're never going to try. So paying off our 20-year mortgage in under 10 years, that never even entered my realm of possibilities. I never even thought about that before spring of 2017.
Right.
But once that idea introduced to me. And that wasn't the first step. The first step was paying off our non-mortgage debt, building up a fully funded emergency fund, and then working on that long-term goal of paying off the mortgage. Well, once it became a reality and we had a plan to make it happen, we were able to make it happen. And you mentioned the mug. If you watched just before, I drink out of this mug every day. And it's a very happy reminder to me that we are on the right path. We are doing the right things. It's a celebration. I bought that intentionally while we were there because I wanted to remember this. I was always going to remember it, but I wanted something that, hey, look, I'm going to drink out of this every day. This is a huge indicator that we are doing the right things to get to where we want to be.
And it's a small form of celebration. Yeah, there you go. It's a small form of celebration. Makes you feel good, right? So you had a big celebration. You went on this vacation. You guys saved for it, obviously. You paid cash for it. I'm sure you didn't go into debt to go on the vacation. And you were celebrating, and you were placing a flagstone, a monument at a point in time. But then that ongoing reminder is the mug, right? You drink out of the mug every day. It reminds you of the celebration that you had, but you don't have to go on that vacation again, right? In order to get the same satisfaction from it. Now you've got this small, inexpensive, really because you're reusing it every day, it's now free way to remind yourself that it really does work. It really is important. It is a priority. And we did it, right? It probably took a little while for that to set in and hit home that you had accomplished this major milestone, but not everything is going to be a major milestone. Sometimes we're just going to make small, that first emergency fund, right? We talk about the $1,000 or the $1,500 or maybe only $500 if that's all you can manage, but you should celebrate. You should give yourself some credit, some recognition for achieving that first critical goal of starting to learn how to save, right? Something as simple as that. And it doesn't have to be big.
So, we zoomed out and we talked about this big goal that my husband and I achieved, but let's get really micro now. Let's get really specific. And you mentioned starting with setting up that starter emergency fund. Pat yourself on the back.
No
if
doubt.
You're with a partner or a spouse, high five, kiss each other, fist bump each other, whatever speaks to you, hug each other, right? Acknowledge it.
Call a friend. Just call a friend. Hey, I did it. They don't know what you're talking about, but let yourself go a little bit,
Right. Scream it from the rooftops, right? I just did this, because that's creating the behavior to make these new changes stick.
And you get some positive reinforcement, right? You give yourself a little bit of that recognition, and now it feels good. And whatever that next step is, you're going to attack it that much harder because you know that it's going to feel that much better.
Right. You are immediately boosting your confidence. You're talking about, you're creating that positive behavior. You're helping yourself achieve other goals, whether they're small or large, medium size, whatever they are. You're creating all of this or you're putting all the foundation in place to keep achieving. So maybe you're like, you know what? I just saved this starter emergency fund, but now I don't want to spend money. I want to keep working towards my goals. Well, maybe it's just giving yourself permission on the weekend to have a binge show watching day, right? Maybe you're always busy and on the go, and taking time for yourself to just sit home and watch TV. Maybe that's a luxury to you. Or maybe it's finding the time to go hike a mountain or do something active, putting on your running sneakers and going for a long run that you keep putting on the back burner. But it's no, this is how I'm going to celebrate this small win.
That's right. Yeah, we keep saying it. It doesn't have to be big, but it also doesn't have to be a big goal to go with a big celebration, right? Or a small celebration. So yes, find those moments in time and make sure, prioritize them. So this is another place where you can put this activity on your calendar. You guys went on a vacation. You obviously planned for that. You had to, make sure the dog was taken care of, and that, if you had any kind of house needs while you were away, that, somebody was going to be taking care of those, that bills were paid, that, things were scheduled. So there's planning that goes into that. And if you don't take the time to put those things in place, you either won't enjoy the reward as much, the vacation in your case, or it just won't happen. You'll find something that gets in the way and it'll get pushed aside. I can say that I'm guilty of that a lot. I set a goal out there, and again, just in the interest of being transparent, I will set myself a goal, and then I will achieve the goal, and I will immediately tell myself that I could have done better, and so I sort of sabotage the reward. Now I'm getting better at giving us my whole household permission and space to be able to celebrate and have more freedom. But there's a tremendous amount of value in that space and that downtime and kind of disconnecting. And even if, like you said, it's just binge watching a show or spending a little bit of time outside, spending a little bit of quiet time, whatever it is in your life that you're missing, I would say that's a good place to start for looking for rewards that you can reintroduce back into your life. What are the things that life has caused you to displace, caused you to, push to the side to make room for the demands of our busy lives? And if you can reintroduce, what would be the one thing that you could bring back in first? And maybe that's a good reward for your first recognition, for your first celebration.
I love that you shared, you were vulnerable and you shared with us that you're this hyperachiever who, it's never enough, right? Okay,
Never
I
enough.
achieved it, but now I'm on to the next thing. And you're not alone in that, right? Many people listening to this are going to be able to identify with that. So it's important that you can acknowledge, yeah,
Yeah,
I want more, but let me celebrate what I just achieved or what we just achieved.
that's right.
And if you are that high achiever, then you may need to write down on a piece of paper, when I complete XYZ goal, I am going to celebrate by ABC.
Hmm.
And in doing that, okay, now you're putting the system in place and not just letting that hyperachiever take over and rolling on to the next goal. But okay, you achieved it, you did it. Now I'm celebrating. I don't even have to think about how I'm celebrating because I already thought about it and I'm
Plan is
doing
in motion.
ABC.
That's right.
Yes,
So
yes.
there's a name for something like that, right? There's a tool that can help you kind of go through and put that together.
Yeah, so it's a celebration guide, and we'll talk a little bit more about it when we get to our action step. That's the action step we're going to be leaving with you. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It could
No.
be a note app on your phone. It could be an Excel spreadsheet on your computer. It could be a piece of paper where you write at the top of it, celebration guide. I will celebrate 1.
Yep.
This is the first goal. 2, this is the second goal. 3. And then in the second column, you're putting how you are celebrating those things. So when you're thinking about, celebrating financial wins, goals, milestones, maybe it's writing your first budget. Maybe it's I was intentional with my money and I didn't spend anything on a want. It was all needs. Maybe it's you're no longer fighting with your spouse or your partner. You're communicating better.
Yeah,
You're
that's going to
communicating
be a big one for a lot
effectively.
of people.
Yeah, maybe it's, you know what? I'm starting to teach my kids about managing their money. That's something you are deep into the heart of teaching your son about managing his money.
Yeah, no, he's a lot of fun, and it challenges me. Taking these ideas and working them down into more manageable steps. I'll say that, right? So our son is 7, and he loves this stuff. He asks about it all the time. He looks for ways to earn money. He wants to be an active giver, saver, and spender. And we're even using the Every Dollar app with him now to put together some budgeting habits that allow him to be more involved. And we always include him in any financial decision, large or small, just so he has the benefit of having those conversations. And having the conversation with a 7-year-old forces me to answer questions that if I was having the conversation with an adult client or my spouse, we're not going to ask a lot of those questions, right? That a 7-year-old asks, and so it forces me to have to answer them, and it causes me to dig a little bit deeper and to really peel back the layers of you can imagine a 7-year-old. One of the most basic questions I'm going to get is why, right? Why
Right.
why are you doing it? And so ask yourself that question because it's a harder question to answer than you think it is. You may think you already know the answer, but put it into words. Try to write it down. And if you can challenge yourself with that or have somebody else, an accountability partner, challenge you, then you may be able to set up a plan for success that is reducing or stripping away some of the things that are getting in the way. And then you can celebrate that. You'll have more space to be able to celebrate. I think
Yeah.
you talked about budgeting and celebrating that first budget. I'll plug the Every Dollar app here because one of the things that it does is it gives you that little momentary celebration where you get sort of this virtual high five for creating what they call an Every Dollar budget, which is a zero-based budget. And so as soon as you achieve that, the screen changes and you get this little reward, you get this little moment of recognition for achieving that Every Dollar budget, for setting up a budget that balances essentially. And it it's fun. It becomes a little bit of a competition, and then once you get you're always looking for ways to adjust the budget to make sure that it's an Every Dollar budget. And so it really doesn't take much. It costs nothing. There's nothing audible. You're not sharing that experience with anybody. It's just you. But it does. It feels good. And so if you can find ways, there's apps for mental health that do the same thing. You can set up recurring schedules of different moments of recognition. You can set up achievements that once you input different data and you meet those goals, you will get those virtual recognitions. And so you can almost have this like virtual recognition partner that is putting together recognition for you, or at a minimum, it's reminding you to put those recognitions in place.
And if you think about like the law of attraction with everything you
Yeah.
just said, right? The more you're celebrating, the more these, whether it's virtual or personal high fives you're getting, right?
Hmm.
The more you're going to get.
That's
The
right.
more you do it, the more you're going to get it. So we truly feel this celebrating the wins is monumental into helping you achieve your goals, creating these new healthy money habits, this celebrating the win is making that stick.
For anybody that thinks that you can over celebrate, right, and then you'll dilute the effect, you'll spend too much time and effort, or maybe even your finances on the celebration. We just want to challenge you. Try to over celebrate,
Yep.
and what we think you'll find is that the value is greater than the cost. So we think this is something that's really worth leaning into.
And that call of action from your lips to my husband's ears, because when I was talking to him about this episode, he was like, well, I do think you can celebrate too much. And I was like, well, I don't think you can.
Try.
I do think it needs to be in line with, right? Like, you're not celebrating writing your first budget by going away for a week, right? Like,
but if we're being intentional, we won't, right? So if we're doing the emergency fund, if we're building the budget, if we're making sure that, like you just said, if the reward matches the effort, right, matches the goal, then we're not going to do those things. And that's why I say try to over celebrate, because it's hard. It's hard to find the time. It's hard to do all the planning. You won't have enough time to coordinate enough celebration into your life to categorize it as over celebration. If you are, then you've probably already blown your budget and all the other expectations, and you're sabotaging all your own goals and stuff like that. So I really do. I think it's impossible. I think it's impossible to prioritize and be intentional and over celebrate.
I think when you're not, you're erring on the side of, I'm not celebrating enough.
Yep.
Versus what you're saying over celebrating, because that's a whole nother beast. You're really not over celebrating. You're overspending. You're not living the life that you're choosing. You're on autopilot again.
That's it.
So because we've talked about celebrating so much, we thought it'd be great to give you some ideas to jumpstart you into thinking, well, what are some ways I can celebrate, right? We already talked about the vacation, or maybe it's more of a staycation or a camping trip. Maybe it's treating yourself to your favorite dessert. A friend of mine recently had something go well for her business, and she snapped a picture and sent it to me, and it was a banana split. She went out and treated herself with that.
Nice.
So think about doing that. Think about giving yourself to enjoy the downtime that we already talked about, whether it's binge watching a show or just space and time to relax and not have an agenda or anything to do. Maybe it's playing your favorite song. This is something I started doing for myself. It's the song that I play for my business when things are going well, or something, happens that I consider to be a milestone or a goal that I've achieved. I've been playing a song by Carrie Underwood called Champion. Mm-hmm. I dare you to listen to it and not get fired up and get, it actually, to be honest with you, to be a little vulnerable, it actually catches me. Yeah. Oftentimes I do get like a little teared up when I'm listening to it, and I get that, pull, that tug, because it's emotional for me. It's like, I became an entrepreneur when I had no idea that's what I was going to do. I created this business. I'm helping people. There's so much personal and professional growth that I'm achieving, but it's also a roller coaster.
Sure.
The lows are low. It's hard to run your own business, to be a solopreneur, to wear every hat. And when I listen to the song Champion, it just gets me fired up, and I really enjoy it. Some other ways, you can celebrate are with self-care. Maybe you enjoy getting a massage, maybe facial, maybe manicure, pedicure. Maybe I'm trying to think of something that's more masculine, but
for me, it's exercise.
Something self-care for you.
My podcast, Financial Fitness, does a lot of correlations to physical fitness, and I'm by no means, somebody that anybody should take physical fitness advice from. But for me, it's just taking care of myself. And so a lot of times during the day, I will reward myself after accomplishing whatever that task was or whatever that goal was by stopping whatever it is I'm doing and exercising for a little bit. I just have some equipment that I have access to that allows me to do that activity outside. And so, one of my personal things that I like to do is be outside, but I don't just want to go sit outside. I want to go do something. So whether it's riding a bike, going for a run, or using some of that outdoor equipment, it's just nice to be outside just for a little bit, just to kind of recharge and remind myself that I earned it, that I did what I needed to do. So now I can reward myself, and I can go do this thing that I want to do.
Lastly, the celebration tip that we'll leave you with is, how about giving, making a charitable donation, making a meal for a neighbor, doing something for somebody else, dropping an actual card in the mail to brighten somebody's day. Maybe we just need that when things are going so well for us. How can we spread that and do
share it? Yeah, when you're feeling good, there's nothing better than sharing that feeling with somebody else. And you never know what it's going to do for them and how it might come back into your life.
So the quote that we have for this episode is, remember to celebrate milestones as you prepare for the road ahead. And that was said by Nelson Mandela. And I don't think you can sum it up any better than that.
No. And I dare you to challenge him. Some of these guys, these quotes, I can only hope that someday somebody says anything that I said to them as a quote, but it probably won't happen, and that's okay. But yeah, that's a great quote. And our book is The School of Greatness by Lewis Holmes. And, so a lot of the same themes and philosophies that we've shared today, but really a great read for anybody that's looking to kind of level up their performance in their life. And, this guy's story is gonna resonate with almost anybody. You won't have the same experience as him, but you'll have similar experiences. And the way that he responded and kind of made adjustments throughout his life to become, what he's being able to do today, and to be in a position to write the book, it'll resonate with you. So give it a read.
Yeah, I haven't read it. I'm putting it on my list for sure.
Great.
And then we talked about the action step within the episode itself, but I'm going to kind of recap it again. So it's creating that celebration guide. And the first step of creating it is identifying the goals and milestones that you want to celebrate on one column of the paper or app, or however you decide to journal, put this actually down from your head onto paper.
Yep.
And then the other side of the column is going to be, and what are the ways? It's buying flowers. It's doing the movement, getting a workout in. It's making a donation. It's going on a trip, whatever, speaks to you. And just make sure that the milestone matches the celebration, that you're staying in line with that.
Christine,
awesome,
it's
Donald.
been a pleasure. We got
as always.
We got through the end of the episode with no technical difficulties this time. We hope. Fingers crossed.
Whoa, we're moving forward.
That's right.
So that means we're moving forward to episode 8 that will drop on May 22nd. And that's going to be about being the tortoise.
So we look forward to seeing you guys then. And for now, we'll see you later.
All right. Thanks, Donald. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Off Limits.
Beyond the podcast, we are money coaches who want to help you.
So if you are looking for help managing your money, use the links in the description below to contact either of us and learn how coaching can help you thrive.
Lastly, please help us to spread the word by subscribing, leaving a comment, and sharing our podcast with your friends and family.